My name's Jeff Hairston. I coach at the Strength Co. in Orange County, California. So I was looking to do some barbell training again, and I just kind of Googled online, and I found Strong Lifts 5x5. And I went to the gym and I did 5 sets of 5. I just picked some arbitrary number on the squat. And I was so blown up after. I went and Googled again, and then I saw starting strength, and I was like, oh, 3 sets of 5, that'll be easier. So then I went and started doing the program, and I got the book. And then a friend of mine heard of the Strength Co. And he said, there's a gym right by you that teaches that method. So I went there and I did my intro lesson, and then I figured out pretty early that I was missing a lot of details, which I think happens to a lot of people when they go in for their first introduction to lifting with a coach in the starting strength system. And I realized right there that I needed to have a coach. And so I started training at the Strength Co. and I was primarily being coached by Grant at the time. And then I'd say about 4 or 5 months into my training, Grant asked if I was interested in becoming an intern. And so at first I said no, which I think made him want me to do it more. Because I said, no, I'm not interested. I just want to get better under the bar. I was really concerned about becoming a proficient lifter and understanding the lifts for myself. And I didn't want to add on coaching at the time. And then the next time he asked me, I took the jump and I said yes. And then I started interning from there. Previously, I was doing a lot of jiu-jitsu at the time, and I wanted to add some strength and conditioning to that. But I had also had back surgery a couple years before. And so from that time, I was kind of gingerly stepping into exercise again and trying to figure out what I could do. And then I think that was what led me to barbell training, because I thought, or I had the intuition that I want to get myself as strong as possible so I could prevent myself from getting injured again. Prior to my injury, I was doing a ton of functional training, so which is very popular in the combat sports world. They love functional training. It looks really good for the gram, a lot of ropes and chains and sandbags and kettlebells and things like that. But looking back on it, and now that I'm familiar with the starting strength system, it was clear to me that it wasn't really measurable in a way that I thought was very clear, because they rarely repeat movements, and it was always like, grab what you feel is appropriate today as far as weight wise and stuff like that. So I think once I did find starting strength in the Strength Co., because I think of training a lot as data gathering. And so as people become more familiar with what we do in starting strength, I think it's very clear that it's very logical, and also the way we gather data is very clear because we eliminate as many variables as possible. So that really kind of lended itself well to the way I think about it. I was squatting, I think, when I was doing it on my own, I maybe started at 85 or 95 pounds on the squat, and because I was so nervous about re-injuring my back, and really wanted to do it correctly. And this is when I was still like going to 24-hour fitness and trying to do it on my own. By the time I went and did my intro with Grant, I think I was squatting around 135, and nothing major. I remember the first time I deadlifted 225, and I was so nervous, and I was like so concerned about hurting my back. And then once I did that, I thought that was a big number, and it is a big number for people. The numbers don't really matter that much, but for myself, being someone that had surgery before, it was kind of a big deal. I had no idea I would end up, deadlifting well over 400 after having back surgery. I just pulled 465 for a single last week, and that was a PR. So from having L5S1 discectomy surgery and barely being able to walk, that's pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think there's more room there too. I'm not as good of a squatter. My squat's in the mid 3s, 350, and my press is 165, and my bench is 265. So moderate numbers, but I think that's what makes me a good coach. So I first started by interning, and at the Strength Co, we call it shadowing. So I wasn't initially doing any coaching, but I was watching the coaches very closely. And so I would go into class and I would watch Grant coach, and I would stand next to him and watch how he was cueing, and he would talk me through his thought process and talk me through cues for certain things. He would ask me if I was seeing the same things he was seeing. And so that was the initial process. And then from there, it was gradually he would say, you're going to coach this set. And so I would coach a set, and then he would provide me feedback based on the cueing I was giving, if I was seeing the things that need to be adjusted within the lift. And then from there was maybe I would take one lifter during the class. And so he would have the class, but I would do one lifter, and then he would ask me for feedback, or he would give me feedback and be watching over me, and it gradually progressed from there. And then I started coaching some classes on my own while I was still interning prior to taking the exam. I had been interning for, I want to say, about 8 or 9 months prior to the online course opening. And I was in the first phase of the online course. And I would say that when I got into the online course, it was really where my progression as a coach and understanding the material really kind of took off and progressed from there. Right. So usually what you'll hear when you're preparing for the exam is, well, you should have read the book 2 to 3 times. And that is great advice, because the material is extremely dense, and it's like reading philosophy in a lot of ways. And when I was in college and I studied philosophy, you would have to read stuff several times. And the same with the Blue Book and the other books, but especially the Blue Book, is that it requires you revisiting the material, over and over again. Even as an SSC, I still need to revisit the material to make sure that I have a clear understanding, or maybe I'm beginning to think about a lift in a different way. I want to go back to the source material and check on it. But what the online course does is it helps you do that. It provides you a guide to sifting through the material. It gives you structured questions that get you to think about the material in a certain way that maybe you wouldn't if you were just reading the book. It helps you prioritize and emphasize where to focus your study, and also because inside the course, not only is it like the book learning or the theory learning of it, but you're also simultaneously required to coach the lifts and film yourself. And like you had mentioned, I was assigned a mentor coach, Nick Delgadillo. So it was really great, because in the gym I have an SSC with me, Grant Brogy, who owns the Strength Co. And so I have him live in person, and they're giving me feedback as I'm coaching, and I can ask him questions. But then also I have another SSC who is reading my, when I complete my assignments, he's reading them over, he's providing me feedback, he's giving me ideas of how I can think about certain subjects or problems and how to approach them. And so I always feel like having more eyes on what you're doing is better. We talk about that at the Strength Co. a lot, is that I never try to discourage lifters from going to other coaches. I want different eyes on them. So if they can go to Connor's class, or they can go to Grant's class, or my class, or any of our coaches, Jules' class, and get more eyes on them, those other coaches might have a cue or, a way of seeing the lift that'll help them. And it's the same way, I feel it's the same way when I was learning to become an SSC. By being able to put the video of me coaching up on the Slack channel, and having my peers that are in the online course give me feedback, by having even more SSCs give me feedback, because that's what's really valuable, is that it wouldn't just be Nick only providing the video feedback, it would be several SSCs, and they would give me things that I was doing well, things to improve. And so the value of the online course can't be overstated in my preparation. I mean, not to skip ahead too far, but I passed the exam the first time I took it. I passed the platform, and then I went on and took the panel interview, and I passed the panel interview. They did ask me for a clarification essay at the end, but I think that if it wasn't for the online course, I definitely would not have been prepared to the point where I would, looking back on it, I don't think I could have passed in my first go. Without the combination of interning in a starting strength gym with a starting strength coach, plus all the tools and the learning that the online course provided me with. Yeah, for sure. And I understand that at the time it feels like a ton of material, and it is. It's a lot to sacrifice your time to be shadowing in classes or coaching in classes, the work that's required of an intern, and then simultaneously, be working through the online course and those modules, recording yourself coaching, turning those in for feedback, also giving your peers feedback. But really, you get such an in-depth and immersive experience within the material. There's really no parallel to the preparation you receive when you approach it that way. And I think that the money spent to do the course is way more efficient than trying to take the seminar several times. And I know of other people that have failed, and the feedback they've gotten is, hey, you should finish the course. If you finish the course, you'll be able to get through the panel material. And because of the time required to do the course, I think that it's a necessary tool that you should be working with prior to even taking the platform. Because when I took my panel interview, it was within 2 months, or I think maybe even a month, of me passing the platform exam. And so there would be no way there's no way you can get through the course in a month to 2 months. And I also think that to get a global understanding of the material, to really understand the foundational concepts, to be able to look at the big picture, but then also zoom in and look at the micro pieces within each of the lifts, the reasons why we structure everything a certain way, the course is really critical in allowing you to do that. And so if you want to be someone who is coaching and not simply repeating, what they say the teaching progression is, you need to internalize that teaching progression. And that requires way more than you just doing repetition of saying the words. It requires you to have ingested that material, absorbed it, and then applied it, and then you're not running a script anymore. You're simply teaching a method that you fully understand. And so, and I understand if people are saying, well, I'm a student too, or I work a full-time job too, and I was doing all that stuff too. I get it. I understand that it's tough, but to say that you've passed a test that most people cannot pass, and to understand material that, a majority of the industry or all of the industry doesn't really think about it that way or approach it that way. And, I'll do intro lessons for trainers, and they're blown away with what they're presented with just in an intro lesson. And that's just, skimming the surface of the things that we cover and the things you can learn inside of the online course. Yeah, so I feel it's my responsibility not only to be a great coach for my lifters, but as we have, new coaches coming in, as the Strength Coach grows, it's also my responsibility to maintain that level of coaching. And so by, having that time watching the videos in the online course and listen to the way Brent explains material, and being able to have other coaches on the Slack channel give me feedback on my coaching, or having, Nick Delgadillo look over my written work and then, give me affirmation or give me feedback about my writing, but then say, you could also think about these problems like this. And all of those things give me such a strong base within the material that it allows me to explain it to our interns, and also it allows me to explain it to my lifters. We want to create self-sufficient lifters, right? We want to create people that understand why the squat operates in a certain way. And so I feel it's not only my job to give them cues or make them squat well, but I also want them to understand those mechanics themselves, right? I mean, we're having a conversation with our lifter, and through that conversation, I want them to be able to internally feel what a correct movement is and why that is. And so by having the ability to fall back on the material and explain why the system is structured in a certain way, to be able to explain the moment model of barbell lifting to our interns, the reasons why certain cues work and certain cues don't, and be able to not just tell an intern that's wrong, but tell them, here's what I like to use and why. Here's something that could be not only, more effective, more efficient, is going to get you those results you want. And then we can keep the coaching level really high, and then I get to help someone too, follow their passion toward becoming a barbell coach. And that's great. So I have an awesome demographic of female lifters. I coach the early morning class, the 5:30 Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I have a group of 4 to 5 women that come in and are very dedicated. And I like coaching everybody, but I really enjoy coaching women. And what I find so satisfying about it is that, and I know that you talk about this a lot, but there are we often think of the body as, we're judging the value of the body based on what the body looks like, rather than judging the body based on what the body can do. And it's really incredible to see whatever lift it is. But to see a woman who I know is strong, because to be a woman and to live, you must be strong. And then to see them express that strength through completing a lift of a weight they never thought they could do. And to see how that changes the way they walk into the room. And to see how that changes how, gosh, I got through those heavy squats this morning, I can get through the rest of my day. And women are tough. And what I appreciate about them is, if they're having a tough day, they'll share that with me. Or if they have something going on, they'll share that with me. But you know what? They set up their rack and they get under the bar anyways. And I find that really inspiring and really satisfying as a coach. Yeah. Diana is here at the seminar. She as an attendee, just coming to learn more about, because she works with us in the warehouse and helps us with a lot of our shipping. And now that we've gotten into the business of making, barbell equipment, I think that, and her working on that side of the business, she also wanted to get more information and become more well-rounded as a lifter as well. And her other job is that she's a hairstylist, and she was having a lot of shoulder pain. And I could only imagine being in this position all day and having your shoulders at weird positions. And, she had a lot of shoulder pain and neck pain, and now she doesn't have any pain. And she's strong. And it's really cool to see that transition. And I know that we hear this all the time, and it's kind of beaten to death, but women are so concerned about becoming bulky. And, I think that we've really done a disservice in the way that we have made women think about what is attractive, or made them think about what is the ideal body type. And I feel that through strength training, through barbell training, we can create like a paradigm shift in the way that they see their bodies, or they value their body and what it is for. And then through that process, they can become more confident, in what they have. I would say that I think that taking the online course is a must. Like I said before, I don't feel I could have passed either of the exams, even quote unquote just the platform, without taking the online course. Because once you come to a seminar, you quickly realize that to be an effective coach requires much more than just knowing the script of the teaching progression. To be able to deal with different body types, anthropometries, age ranges, males and females, people of different abilities, people with different, previous injuries and things like that. To be able to do that, you have to have a very intimate understanding of the material. And I really don't see, it's twofold, right? It's coaching as much as possible, obviously, in person or online, as much as you can see people moving through space, that's going to be a huge help. But having a really deep understanding of the material and having SSCs in there to guide you through that process is critical to passing the platform, because you have to do that before you even get to the panel. And I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding where maybe some people who are preparing to take the exams feel that those things are really separated, that the physical part of the exam is on the platform, and then all the theory is in the panel interview. And I don't think that that's true. I think that they're tightly knit together. And for you to come into and I got reminded of this weekend, is that they're not making you into a coach here at the seminar. You are already a coach, or you should already be a coach, and you're just simply, they're evaluating and saying, yes, you are a coach. And so for you to do that, it's going to require an understanding of all the aspects of the training, the programming, the coaching, those fundamental concepts, the theories that are the foundation of what we do. And I think that if I had just read the book, and I was very fortunate, I was in the first run of the class, I was in the beta phase of the class, and felt very lucky to go through it in the 6 months leading up to my exam, or 8 months leading up to my exam. But I wouldn't tell an intern to take the exam without doing the course. That's my opinion as an SSC. And for the interns that we have at the gym, I think that it's a must. So as a lifter, I want to pull 500. I think it's achievable. But to be honest with you, my real goals as a lifter are to lift 3 days a week. And so as time has gone, I spent a lot of time in the beginning being really focused on numbers and looking around the room and asking myself, why don't I squat as much as that person? Or why don't I press as much as this person? Or, man, Grant's got an awesome press. I want to press that much. And I realized that, and kind of like Rip talks about this, is that the sport you're playing is life, right? Or living. And so for me, PRs are cool and they're fun to get and they can be motivating, but I would say that strength training is a principle by which I live. And so for me, it's about the process of making sure I'm in the gym 3 days a week. I'm doing my squats. I'm doing what I need to be doing so that I can live the rest of my life, and that it gives me the freedom to do those other things, to go on vacation, go on a hike, do all the other stuff I love to do. My aspirations as a coach, I want to continue to fill classes at the Strength Co. to help new interns pass the exam. I work a full-time job with youth that are incarcerated. I've started to coach some of them. I've had a couple. I work with female youth, and I've had one youth recently who got really interested in barbell training, and I got to take her through. I taught her how to squat and how to press, and she was even power cleaning. And for a youth in that demographic where they've gone through so much trauma, to watch the look on her face when she did a power clean for the first time or did a set of 5 squats and they were good, is probably a feeling that she's never had in her life before. A feeling of, wow, this is really hard, but I'm capable of doing things that are hard if I work at it. And so if I have the opportunity to do more coaching like that with my kids that are incarcerated, especially the females, that would be really amazing. And then I think that once I retire from that field, from corrections, I could see myself transitioning to coaching more full-time. And over time, hopefully the Strength Co will expand a little bit, and then we'll have more gyms and more SSCs, and we can continue to teach this method to more people.